Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on citizen energy for a fair and competitive transition. We're giving a few moments to speakers to connect and participants to connect. So please do bear with us for a few more moments. Good afternoon to those trickling in. We're just waiting a few more moments before we get started. Thank you for being with us. Good. So as we are running a little bit tight on time for today's jam-packed agenda, I think that we can gradually get started. I see we already have almost 60 participants, which is fantastic news. We are expecting some more. However, I think that we can, get underway. So very good afternoon to you all. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this webinar titled Citizen Energy for a Fair and Competitive Transition. Now, this is the first webinar from the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, an initiative of the European Commission's DG ENER that was launched earlier this year, also known as SEA. We'll be telling you lots more about this initiative in a few moments. We're also delighted to have this first event actually being hosted as a Sustainable Energy Day under the EU Sustainable Energy Week umbrella. I will be moderating today's webinar. My name is Puyan Maleki Dezaji. I'm a senior consultant at ECRIS Research and Consulting and a core team member and task leader of the Citizen Advisory Hub. So the purpose of this webinar is to introduce you to the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub and explore some of the activities that it will be covering, the ways in which it will be involving citizens in the energy transition, bringing affordability and competitiveness along the way. So today we'll be looking at 3 panels. We'll be hosting 3 panels. The first being on district heating and energy efficiency. The second being on flexible demand response. And the third being on energy sharing. For all of these panels, we will be placing particular attention on what are the key barriers faced by initiatives and what are the drivers that can help overcome challenges. We also want to look at what are the conditions for success, and fundamentally, we also want to explore the extent to which the initiatives presented can actually be replicated and transferred in other contexts in Europe. We're joined by a truly wonderful set of speakers. First of all, participants from projects ranging from the Energy Agency of the city of Maribor in Slovenia, from Enostra Energy Cooperative in Milan, and also from the Sud project here in Brussels. On top of this, we're also joined by some of the leading experts in the field, coming from organizations such as RescuePU, SmartEn, and SolarPower Europe. Before we get kick-started into the substance of our webinar, I would like to share with you some housekeeping rules. If we can go to the next slide, please, and the following, please. So this event will be recorded and it will be put online. minus the question and answer section. So this is to very much allow you at ease to ask your questions, to speak up, and for the panelists also to respond fluidly and openly. So the question and answers will not be uploaded, but for the rest of the part, the presentation will be. You are, as the participants, all muted, but we do have time at the end of each panel for questions from the audience. So please, whilst you are practically muted, we are very keen to hear your thoughts and questions. You can put these in the question and answer box at the bottom of your screens. And yes, without further ado, I believe we have now well connected with us Achille Hanoset, Policy Officer at the European Commission's DG ENER, who is overseeing this Citizen Energy Advisory Hub project, along with many files relating to citizen energy and consumer rights. So Achille, are you with us, connected? And if so, please, I give you the floor to present.
Yes, many thanks, Pujan. If all is well, you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
So indeed, I'm the project officer for the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub on behalf of DG Energy and the European Commission. And it's my great pleasure to provide you a first outline of this initiative and the activities that you can expect being deployed by it over the timeline of the next 3 years. So next slide, please. Yes, please, next slide. So, yeah, that's better. So, driving a citizen-led energy transition, which is the overall purpose. So there's quite some potential for small businesses, local authorities, citizens, communities to invest in sustainable energy projects. At the same time, we also need local actors to become more active, to also engage with the energy system in a way that can provide flexibility services, but also help to optimize the value of self-consumption for consumers as well. And of course, we have the particular challenge of gradually phasing out also fossil fuels and replacing that with, let's say, renewable heating and cooling solutions, as well as the more energy efficient appliances, of course, and goods to ensure that we reduce our consumption as much as possible as well. All of these different challenges, but also opportunities, are within the scope of this initiative, and we aim to provide the necessary assistance to empower citizens and communities in this regard. Next slide, please. Advancing citizen energy, as you can see here, we have a nice representation of the different actors that are within the scope of the initiative. So we see households, small businesses, municipalities and local authorities, energy communities, social economy actors, which can include other type of cooperatives, such as agricultural cooperatives as well, and small-scale NGOs operating at the grassroots level. All of these actors, they can be supported individually or collectively. And all of the resources that we plan to produce for them, on which I will elaborate the next slides, should also be relevant to these type of actors when they want to engage in different activities. Key challenges which the project has identified so far, and which gives us a little bit of a starting point on how we have to tailor our deliverables as well to be as effective as possible. You see a nice overview here. I think what I would highlight especially is trust and participation. So it's very much about the social dimension. We have the technologies, we have in principle the solutions to reach our renewable energy targets, energy efficiency targets by 2030, become also climate neutral by 2050. Now we need the social capital as well, and people to use and deploy these solutions as well. And trust is a key factor here, and that trust can at times also be found with the actors that we are targeting within our initiative as well. Financing and economic barriers, of course, to some extent, our mapping of enabling frameworks will also dive into the correlation between economic incentives and regulatory and legal enabling conditions. Capacity and expertise shortages, of course, this is also why we provide technical assistance to make sure that at the early stages of project development, these actors can access the expertise. So we fund them to some extent as well in-house to develop their projects. Inclusivity is an important one. Vulnerable groups in its widest possible sense, I would say even. Also including low-income families, but also, for example, underrepresented groups within our societies at large. Yeah, that's largely, I think, the key challenges I wanted to highlight here for you. So we can go to the next slide. This is the overview of the main activities that will be deployed. So I mentioned some of them already briefly. This is a more structured representation, capacity building and technical assistance. Technical assistance for 120 of these citizen energy initiatives, which is quite considerable. The citizen energy panels that will be hosted as well. So our contractor, the consortium, will be responsible for also assisting municipalities in implementing dialogues with their local constituents about the energy transition within their administration or within their administrative boundaries. 10 capacity building workshops for diverse stakeholders. So that could include also the target groups and potentially also intermediaries that can help support these actors. Networking and peer-to-peer exchanges, of course, an important one. That's also, to a large extent, the function of an EU initiative is facilitating the exchange of good practices. And for this purpose, we will set up a citizen energy network that will have regular activities as well, such as breakfast sessions or chatting on citizen energy, as we are doing here today for the very first time. So more chats to be expected as well, provided, of course, you join the network. Key output and deliverables, an interactive map. So we will leverage data that was collected from other projects to have a fully fledged map on energy communities. And we will also look at other type of initiatives and where relevant also create interactive maps to give a full picture of where citizens, communities, their intermediaries are becoming active in the energy transition. It could be some sort of barometer even potentially. Guidance documents, quite a few guidance documents will be produced. This, of course, to work around specific thematics that we think are relevant and that require further investigation. So always open to suggestions. If you have any good ones, please raise it with the colleagues here in the call. 55 best practice identification. My colleague Puyan will be responsible for that. And then country profiling, so also giving a robust overview of what are the enabling conditions now in place for these actors to engage in demand response, energy efficiency services, and of course, renewable energy production. And we will be producing a quarterly newsletter. Next slide, please. So this is the moment where I motivate you to take out your phone. With any luck, you already had it out because you found my explanations very clear. So scan ahead and join the Citizen Energy Network and benefit us, of course, also from associated activities that we will do, mostly focusing on learning from each other. Next slide. Perfect. So that was it from my end. Real pleasure to introduce this, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and learning from all of you as well. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ashil, for this clear and succinct overview. And I have to say, on behalf of the whole chair team and consortium, we're very excited to be working with you on this project, and let's hope for a successful and impactful project ahead. Now we move on to our first panel on energy efficiency and district heating. As buildings account for around 40% of total energy consumption in the EU, this is really a crucial area for our energy efficiency and decarbonization targets. Speaking on this topic, we have two speakers. The first is coming from a concrete project example from the city of Maribor in Slovenia, which will be presented by Dr. Vlasta Kremel. She has a diploma and postgraduate degree in chemical technology and is the director of the Regional Energy and Climate Agency of Podravie in Maribor, and is also the elected mayor of a municipality, Selinča Dravi. Apologies for my pronunciation. Of course, these are in Slovenia. So with this, combined with this, we will also have another speaker, who is Felix Kreidman. Felix is a senior policy advisor at RescuPU, the European Federation of Energy Communities, where he specializes in energy efficiency activities such as citizen-led renovations and community-led heating and cooling by energy communities. Great to have you both here with us. Vlasta, the floor is yours, so please do share your presentation with us now.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and hello to everyone this afternoon. So I will try to talk a little bit about the municipality of Maribor, about our heating and cooling. This is not at the moment as a citizen-led initiatives, but we will talk about the municipality-owned utility. Slovenia, due to our historical and history development as a communist and socialist country, so we had a little bit of problem of involving citizens in the managing and doing and working also in the energy field. So we think having a municipality-owned utility that has transformed during the last year also in open utility, I think this is something, the case that we can show to all others maybe that are still wondering around how to take the citizens on board. So the next slide, please. So municipality of Maribor is located in southeast of Slovenia. We have about 120,000 inhabitants. We are second the biggest town, not big city in Slovenia. We have about 52,000 households, altogether 43 residences and about 20,000 buildings. So it's quite not very large, but quite large area that the district heating and the heating as such is covering. So the next slide. The next slide, please. Yeah. So we said how this transition from green transition has started already 30 years ago, because before we had the coal as the main energy sources for heating, and we had quite bad air quality. And since then we have improved it, because we have started introduce firstly the natural gas and then natural gas driven district heating. And also in our region we have about 65% of the green electricity produced from the hydropower. So we have quite good potential also to develop also in the field of heating. Next slide, please. So what is very important when we talk about the heating and cooling? So the owner of the heating and cooling is municipality of Maribor, so the district heating, and we have the district heating operator. This is the public utility. And these are not the only two stakeholders, I will say, for this heating and cooling plan, but they work very closely together with Energy and Climate Agency of Podravie. And we as such a expert team, I will say, we have defined a sort of the working group that will work on the heating and cooling. And this working group is not participated only by the technical expert for heating and cooling, but also from financial expert for legal aspects. And we see that we will have to expand this working group also to other stakeholders, especially when we talk about renewable energy sources that maybe will be produced by other producer, not only by the utility. And here we see some potential of some small also energy community that will provide, or they will produce renewable energy heating, and because we will have to connect all this together. And why it is very important? Because it costs a lot of money, and you know that we have to put together all sources financial that we have, you know, to build really the carbon neutral heating and cooling in the city like this. But we never forget, the first is energy efficiency first principle. So we always look to have a building sector well efficient, also in industry, and we all use other digitalization, other solutions in energy and financing field. And I think this organization of this working group and working very closely together as a municipality of Maribor. This is the municipality more in administrative field, but through the municipal council, we really have the voice from the citizens, which is very, very important. The district heating operator, he's technically capable and it's having the possibility to run it well, and in work together with Energy and Climate Agency, which is responsible for planning and designing the future project leading to the green transition and carbon neutrality. So I think this is the good practice how we have to work together to really make the biggest benefits. So the next slide, please. So how we are going that way? So we started, like I said, in 2000, where we had set the goal that until 2000 we will have no coal in most of our heating, and we achieved it nearly in 2010. We were a little bit late, but still, so we have nearly no coal in our city. Then we have the next phase, so we are planning, or we have in our sustainable energy and climate action plan, then until 2030 there will be no heating oil in public buildings already in 2025. So this year we hope we will finish with all of them, and then in also private households till 2030. Then we have a next phase till 2035, where we say there is no natural gas in our district heating system. And then until 2040, there will be no fossil fuels at all for heating and cooling in our area. And what is important, because as a municipality of Maribor, we have an urban and rural area. So we said the district heating is the most important issue in urban area, but we will allow and we will foster the biomass, heat pumps, and other renewable sources in peripheral area. The next phase, the next slide, please. Yeah, so here you see a little bit with the phases, what we are going to do or what are our plans. We try to replace the natural gas with any other potential gas sources like biogas, syngas, or green hydrogen. And then we try to have a district heating. At the moment, it is more than 60% based on natural gas, but we are already going through the thinking about the geothermal energy sources, about the waste heat, biomass, wastewater, and also combining with the green electricity. And so this will be the last phase where we will see that there will be the carbon neutral district heating. The next slide, please. So here are some pictures. We already have a geothermal and heat pump using the heat produced by Drava River. We already have a big biomass boiler, and we already have a lot of photovoltaics. And the next slide, please. Yeah, so how this process is seen, or where we can see, or there are citizens already involved. Like I said, together with the energy agency, utility, and the municipality, we have prepared the local energy and climate action plan, where already citizens were involved in this stage. So we have also prepared the local ordinance about priority heating sources. So we, as a group or as a public owner, we follow our strategies to be climate neutral in the future. So we are also preparing all these legislative and other documents needed that also our citizens will be carbon neutral in the future. So we are taking care about them. So we are at the moment putting together this green transition heating and cooling plan. But what is also important, as we are public utility, we take care about the heating price, because this is the point, or the price is really the point where we see the citizens are very vulnerable in that point. So as you know, the price is confirmed by regulator, but it's approved by municipal council, and we see this procedure as taking really care about the citizens. So through the municipal council, citizens can have their voice somehow. And because the municipal council is thinking about the price and how this price is really connected to everyday lives of the citizens, so they can protect these groups that have a problem with the energy poverty or any other vulnerable group in this issue. And through energy and climate agencies, we have advisory already and training service for citizens, because we want them to understand renewable energy sources, to be active in this discussion, what can be done in the utility part, but also that they can for themselves think about, how they can have their own source, maybe how they can also cooperate in energy community or similar. And I think this last part with the advisory and training service for citizens, this is very, very important, because citizens are not always technical expert or aware of what they can do, what there's potential to do, or what are the legal frames for this. So I think within these processes, we can really involve citizens and take care about them. And the next slide. So I think this is in short time what we can say. And yeah, really through this process, we develop the knowledge. And I think very soon we will see also some energy community actions going on in our region. So thank you for your attention.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Vlasta, for this fascinating presentation, and congratulations on the interesting work. I'd like to now give the floor to Felix. Are you with us, Felix? And then, just so that the participants are aware, we will have some time for question and answer after the presentation by Felix. So please, if you do have any questions, feel free to already place them in the chat or do so throughout the course of Felix's presentation. So please, Felix, take the floor.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much, Bojan. And very interesting, and thank you to everybody else for the invitation. So first of all, I think there's many elements that were mentioned by Dr. Krmel that are quite interesting regarding the citizen democracy movement. So for my presentation, I will focus a bit on the district heating and cooling itself. If we could go to the next slide, there's an overview, I believe. Yeah, there's an overview and a little me there as well. So we will look into the types of technologies that can go into district heating, because as Dr. Krmel was saying, this is a bit of a complicated and cost-intensive process, but there's a lot of options out there. So we will look into these options, into the technologies, which drivers and barriers we are facing. We look a bit into the legislative framework of heating and cooling at the EU level, and then, of course, into the supportive framework for community-led heating and cooling. Some of the points were already mentioned by Mr. Hanoset, so I have my work cut out for me there already. So without further ado, let's go into the types of technologies, because I wanted to give you a bit of a. So in the next slide, I believe we. Yeah, thanks. I see that the numbers of the slides are are not well indicated. So just ignore that for the time being. Right, so there's many possibilities actually when it comes to district heating. As you can imagine, you have to open the street, you have to put in the district heating pipes in there. So this is mainly where the main cost of this comes from, right? I mean, once the pipes are in the ground of a district heating, then the maintenance costs are relatively stable, right? But that initial investment is indeed the important one. And this is something that we see for energy communities, right? And this is something that as well Dr. Carmel was mentioning now. So what sources can we add into this district heating, right? Well, I mean, from what we hear from our members, so from energy communities that work on district heating, and there's over 650 of these systems in the EU, as far as we know, probably many more. But from what we understand from them is the best way to approach this is simply to just look around. You know, look in your area. What is the potential source of heat that you can use? Is it solar thermal energy, right? Is it waste heat from an industry, which is the case in many places in the Netherlands, for instance? Are you taking the temperature from a water source, be it sewage, be it a river, be it a lake? In which case this would be aquathermal energy. Are you taking it from the ground, right? As we know, right, the temperature below where we stand, all right, is actually it's very stable. So taking a bit of this temperature and feeding it into the district heating system basically gives you access to unlimited renewable energy. So again, we have biomass as well. So I hope that with this slide, I'm just showing that there's many possibilities that you can do for district heating. Then in the next slide, please, we will look into the barriers and drivers. So what are some of the problems that you can face when you develop your own district heating, especially as an energy community? Well, as with everything in life, there's things that work out and some things are a bit more difficult. So the good things that come from it, as you can imagine, since this is a district heating owned by an energy community in theory, you have democratic ownership over it, right? So we saw in the case before that the municipality controls the price. This follows a similar logic where the citizens are the ones that basically control the price through the energy community. Everybody is the same because you have the one person, one vote. This also includes the municipality and SMEs that might participate in this energy community. So that basically makes sure that everybody starts off from the same point. And one has to say that this controlling this price, it really is key because at the end of the day, district heating is a monopoly, right? So the options that we have here are who do we give control of the governance of these systems, right? Do we give it to the municipality? Do we give it to an energy community? Do we give it to a collaboration of both? Or do we give it to a traditional market actor? And that's a choice that every municipality will certainly have to make. At the very least, for municipalities and energy communities, there is democratic control. Right. Another good point of it is the non-for-profit principle. So whatever revenue the energy community makes from this, it can reinvest in the local area. So renovating kindergartens, helping with energy efficiency measures, which again, Dr. Carmel mentioned this very well, that indeed heating and renewable heating has to go with energy efficiency, right, and with renovations, because otherwise it seems only to raise halfway to the end, right? So yeah, you need to do both. So it creates local value, right? However, what are some of the problems? I mean, some of them were already mentioned, like I said, by Mr. Hanosed and the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub. Sorry, I'm happy to see that it directly helps with some of these problems, right? So when we look at lack of support, this can be overcome by the guidance documents, by the best practice sharing that Mr. Hanosed was mentioning before. There's also the lack of imagination. I mean, for which actually the direct technical assistance and the citizen energy panels will be useful, right? Because many municipalities simply do not really think that this is an option, right? To develop district heating with your citizens. It is complex, as you can imagine. It's not the easiest activity that you can do. Solar PV is of course much easier. And the access to capital, as we mentioned, is a problem as well. But once again, the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub seems to take very positive steps, I believe, to solve these problems. Can we go to the next slide, please? In the interest of time, I'll be a bit short in the next one. So here, I laid out a bit of the existing regulatory framework for heating and cooling. As you can see, I'll let you read that more in detail later. But as you can see, basically, heating and cooling is a bit spread out throughout EU legislation instead of having its own, centralizing law, so to say, or legal act. So what we do have is a heating and cooling strategy that will be coming in. In hopefully first quarter of 2026, because the last one that is linked here is from 2016. So anyway, I'll let you read that once we share the presentations. On the next slide, we will look into the enabling framework, which once again, I'll let you read that by yourself. But the idea here is just to show that, so what conditions do we need in order to make sure that our district heating is indeed democratically controlled, right? And in this sense, what we do observe in this over 650 community-led heating and cooling systems is that there's often collaborations with the municipality to one extent or another, either through membership to the energy community or just through cooperation, right, as societies have for thousands of years. So it's nothing new. What is new and what is good is how the energy communities and the municipalities, so how citizens and municipalities can help each other out, right? So in green, you can see the things where the municipality, where the citizens can help, with access to capital through private financing, with capacity building, so helping the municipality cover some of the gaps that they may have. While what you see in yellow, such as the capacity of municipalities and the regulatory framework, these are things where the municipality can help the citizens in their local transition projects. Again, we created some digital guidelines that explain step by step how to establish your own community-led heating and cooling system, be it as a municipality or as a citizen. So we link them here if you want further information. I'm also seeing that time is upon me. So I'll just go through the last two examples just to give you a bit of an idea of what we mean by community-led heating and cooling. So here we have an example from Denmark, right? In the energy community of Avedore in Hvidovre. I'm probably butchering how you actually say that, but that's as best as I can do. So basically, they use a data center. They have a fully circular process here where they use the waste heat of a data center. This data center is part of the energy community as well, and this waste heat goes to the entire population of 4,500 people in the local area. All right. On top of this, they have PV production, and this PV production then feeds as well into the data center. So as you can see, this is a fully circular process in which you give the power that the data center needs, and the data center gives the waste heat that the citizens need. And it is fully in the hands of the citizens. It's actually 20 minutes by public transport from Copenhagen, so it's well worth a visit if you're around the area. What did this mean for citizens? 10% decrease in the bills, beyond, of course, the fact that you can decide over your own heat and its prices, right? And then in the next example, in the last one, so we can leave some Q&A time as well. We have the example of biomass, right? This might be particularly interesting, especially to the colleagues that presented before, because they did mention biomass and geothermal as well. So here, basically, this energy community in Greece, they have access to a lot of forest that needs taken care of. So indeed, the energy community just does this, right? They take care of the forest, they do municipal prunings, they use this, and they create pellets from this. So with this, they actually did give free energy to a kindergarten for the first time. They help people with advice on the renovation works. They organize community events like a renewable energy festival. What you can see in the picture here, all the way on the right, is a Christmas boiler that they made for children to put their letters to Father Christmas in there during Christmas. So again, this is just to show that one, you can use the technology that is around you, right? Like I said, solar thermal, geothermal, aquathermal, biomass, and two, if this is done in collaboration with the citizens and you give ownership of this of the citizens, of course, then not only can you innovate, but you also have cascading positive effects on your neighbors, because of course you see what your neighbor is doing and you think to yourself, oh, that's not half bad. I'll try to join as well. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that with this, I rushed it a bit, but I hope that I was on time, and I'm happy to answer any questions before I leave in 4 minutes, actually. But again, thank you very much to everyone, and as always, at Rescoop, we're more than happy to answer questions on energy communities. So back to you, Pujan. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Felix, for a very interesting and comprehensive presentation. Also, thanks to you again, Vlasta. I'm afraid we only have time for one question right now, as we're running a little bit over time. Just a quick note to all participants: should your question not be answered right now, we will explore how we can give some written responses to your questions, perhaps. Well, as we mentioned, there will be no recording of the Q&A, but we will see if we can take the spirit of many of the questions and have them answered and published online for those who we can't get around to answering their questions and doubts now. So the question is to you, Vlasta, and one of the participants would like you to tell us more about any of the challenges or barriers the city faced in your decarbonization of the heating system, and how you overcame those challenges and barriers. So yeah, what were the obstacles and how did you overcome them?
I think one, beside the money, there is always the obstacle. So, but there is a very long answer to this. I think the biggest barrier, and really give us a lot of thinking, is spatial planning in urban area, because renewables like local sources, they need a lot of permissions and processes really to implement them. And if you look in the wooden biomass, there is a problem with the space, there is a problem with the air quality. Then we have a heat pump using the heat from the Drava River. So we have a problem with the ecological minimum. We have to take care about, how much water, where to put it. So these challenges, but I think the cooperation between different sectors, between different authorities and other stakeholders, this can push these problems or give the push to the problems. And this is important for the citizens, because if they are on their own making the community and having the district heating, they really don't understand as such all this administrative issue about all these permissions. And like Felix said, something the municipality with our knowledge and our experience in this procedure can really foster and help them, that we can overcome this barrier a little bit faster, I will say.
Excellent answer. Thank you very much, Vlasta. I think that's very clear. Okay, so I think it's time for us to move on to our next panel. Thank you again, Felix and Vlasta, for your participation. Very much appreciated. And okay, so we go on now to our second panel, which is on flexing community energy. Now here we're really talking about the benefits that we can get out of changing our consumption patterns to really respond to the amount of electricity which is in the grid at any moment. Flexibility is really crucial for getting more renewables, more renewable energy sources online, and as we'll see, has the added benefit of also balancing the grid and even reducing people's bills and feeding into overall energy affordability. So on this very important topic, we'll hear from two speakers. First of all, Sara Capuzzo, who is the president of Enostra Energy Cooperative in Italy, and has actually been working in various positions in Enostra since 2014 and since 2020. She has also been the coordinator of the working groups on renewable energy communities in the Italian Solar Association. And then secondly, we have Zeni Varfi, who is head of policy at SmartEn. Zeni has over 15 years of experience in EU energy policy and in her role as head of policy at SmartEn, she advocates for flexible demand management industry, championing the role of demand-side flexibility in really accelerating the transition to a more efficient and resilient energy system. So, yeah, we can get started with you, Sarah. So please do take the floor.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and good afternoon to everybody. Just I specify that I'm not president anymore. I'm vice director, just to be clear. Yes, I'm talking about flexibility and demand response as a mechanism, as a market for a more democratic and equitable energy transition. Next slide, please. Just a few words about Enostra. Enostra is a cooperative. We were born 11 years ago, and our model is aimed to support just transition and to put the energy citizen in the middle, in the center of all the activity that we do. We do collective production, so members participate with investment to make us to give us the possibility to build new renewable plants. And we are suppliers, so we sell the energy, the ones that we produce and the one that we buy from the market. We support energy communities. We help them in the activation phase, in the management, in all the steps that they have to go through. And we work on efficiency and self-production services for members, meaning either households and SME. And we do campaigns on education and raising awareness about energy efficiency, renewables, and all topics around energy transition. Next slide, please. When we talk about local flexibility market, we are talking about services that are aimed at maintaining, as Purian said, maintaining the balance of the electricity grid, involving end users in modulating their consumption. And by doing this, they have a remuneration of the service provided. So it's an opportunity to better use the available energy, and it helps reducing waste and improve energy efficiency. And it's an important mechanism that allows to decarbonize the system and to reduce the use of fossil fuels. And it's an essential part of a fair transition to renewables. And it's important that this relies mainly on the end user, the active customers, and they have a very important role on this market, and they are going to have it more than today because it's still in an early stage, at least in Italy. Next slide, please. Just a slide. I'm not going through all the steps, but it talks about the European and national legal framework. Just to highlight something about the fact that the directive says that it's important to have transparent and non-discriminatory rules, and the procedures need to be market-based. This is very important because it's something that you need to put the attention to make sure that the consumer are on board. And we have the Italian framework has introduced the resolution from the authority has introduced the possibility for some DSOs to build pilot projects in their respective areas. And we are participating in the RomeFlex project, which is promoted by Areti, which is the DSO of Rome. And in this case, we are maturing some experience on field, let's say. Next slide, please. Here, just a slide to specify which are the actors of this market in this specific case. The first one is GME. This is national body, public entity that manages and organizes local flexibility market through which the DSO provides the local service. Then there is the DSO, in this case is Areti, as I said, and through forward auctions, the DSOs ask to the balancing service provider to put their available power from the aggregation that they do with resources, and it formulates the requests for the service. Then there is the BSP, in this case is Enostra. Enostra acts as aggregator, and for each distributed resources, Enostra on a daily basis communicates to the DSO the power and the interval, the times that are made available from each resource. And this happens via the BSP platform. And then there are the resources, which are the members of Enostra, which have been involved in this experiment. And the member received the request from Enostra to regulate their power, and they are remunerated, as I said, for the service that they give. Next one, please. How did we activate our members in this new market? At the beginning, we could only involve the members from a small neighborhood in Rome, the first area which was involved in the project. So we sent them a newsletter. We are a cooperative, so it's normal for our members to be involved in new services. And obviously, the innovators are the ones that reply as first, and they are happy to help Enostra to put in place some new services, and they are happy to do it. And then in the second phase, we could involve all the members in Rome because the area has been enlarged. And we have been doing some information session with the members that agreed to participate via webinars or individual calls or even in-person meetings. And then in this specific case, not all the pilots are like that, but in this case, there were some smart meters, plug and play, provided by the DSO, and we handled or installed to the house of the members or to the like shops or that participated to the experimental phase. At the beginning, we didn't do any promise of remuneration for the first phase because we didn't know, it was new for everybody. So we couldn't promise anything because if we do, we want to respect our the promise. In the second phase, when we have some experience, we could understand the amount of money earned by the service, and we could propose a specific offer to the members. And obviously, this has helped to increase the number. As you see, at the first phase in the 2024, just a few participated, and then it increased even because of the remuneration, but even thanks to the experience and the ability to explain what was the service and what was the purpose. Next one, please. Here you can see just an example of service provided. It's the platform is the platform Energy of Things that we are using, and you can see the expected consumption based on the historical data. This is the baseline, and then the bars are the vertical bars are the real consumption. When you see the green bars, you can see the service requested. So the DSO asked to reduce the consumption in that period. And you can see when it has been remunerated, because when you see the red bar, there's no remuneration, because in that case, instead of decreasing the consumption, it has increased. So this is just an example on field to see what happened. Next slide, please. With this experience, we are able, at least so far, to hypothesize what are the possible revenues for the members that participate to the market. And you can see in this graph, in these bars, there is from the left to right, a simple house without any particular devices, a house with a heating pump or with a storage, or with an electric vehicle, storage and heating pump, or like a shop, let's say. You can see the orange bar is the revenue for the power, the capacity available, and the blue, pale blue bar is the revenue for the service that has been provided. And you can see that there is a specific, we expect to be able to answer to the request for a higher number of hours if you have more devices or more opportunity to answer. Because if you have a house without any specific devices, it's difficult to ask you to move your consumption. It's just the behavior, the change of behavior, but you don't have a specific opportunity. So the number of hours, it's monthly, increases considering all the different devices.
My apologies, Sarah. If I can ask you to wrap up now, please.
Yeah.
We are a little bit over the
Sorry.
fascinating stuff you're presenting. Would love to have more. No, but if I can, just to keep in good time.
Next one, please.
Keep it closed, please.
Yeah. Maybe I can go to the one following with the conclusion. And important thing is that local flexibility is real space for democratic participation in the market. But it's important, as I said, that there are transparent and non-discriminatory procedures are adopted as expected from the directive. The active role of end user it's a revolution in this case, because it is not something that is incentivized publicly, but it's a service that you provide, so you are remunerated for this. It's important, it's very democratic. And it's important that it's a collaborative model that have the opportunity to generate mutual benefit for all the parties involved in this process of decarbonizing of the system. And it's important to put together not only the explicit flexibility, like the one that I told you about, but even the implicit one, and the opportunity to work together with renewable energy community, and to put together the price signal, and the energy sharing, and the self-consumption. So you can move the consumption with the many different actions. And the last thing is the more important thing, that renewable energy community and energy cooperative are the perfect context to express the role of energy citizen in the most effective and impactful way for all the areas, environmental, societal, and economical, because of the purpose of a cooperative and of an energy community. Thank you very much. Last one. That's it.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for
Thank
the
you.
presentation. Thank you. Teni, without further ado, over to you. If I can kindly ask to stay strictly within the 10 minutes, if possible, would be wonderful, so we can squeeze in some much anticipated questions as well. So over to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me as well, and to Sarah for giving this concrete example. Now I'll bring you up to the reality in the European Union. Just in the next slide, maybe just to start, what is flexibility? And Sarah touched upon it very clearly, but there are 15 shades of flexibility in Europe. It's very difficult even for the Commission to get their head around sometimes, but even for consumers themselves, what flexibility means. There is an interpretation overall, but we as SmartEn, we are just taking the demand side, how the customers could be engaged and activate that flexibility. And that is what coincides, kind of, it captures well what Sarah just deployed as an information. Now, we know in Europe there are many issues being around, like energy prices being high, grid is under pressure, and after all, we have also this stringent climate targets. The good news overall is that we have solutions, but they have not been deployed properly, and that is flexibility, on demand side flexibility that we are talking. So in order to capture this potential, we did a study actually with DNV, and which showed exactly a very atypical, let's say, perfect scenario where you have to use and fully unlock the flexibility, what will happen by 2030. And that brings us to the figures that you have in front of you. So overall, what we came out as a result was that you can actually deliver 300 billion per year in system savings. So all the customers will benefit from it, which in normal terms, that means the EU entire energy import bill from Russia in 21 will be actually less than this. So, but why we are interested actually in the benefit of demand side flexibility? First, from the system side, as you see it in the left or right, and then on the right, it's about the customers. So first, it's cutting waste. And that's what the studies show. If you fully unlock the flexibility, you have to, or you will reduce renewable energy curtailment by 50.5 terawatt hours, which is around 61% drop. And that's clean, free electricity currently going completely to waste. Then obviously we have a reduction of tons of CO2 per year. That's around 80% of today power sector emission. And of course, what we are talking right now, but being completely misunderstood, is that we are not saying to not invest in grid investments, but on top of that, just be conscious, make the flexibility needs, use them properly, and then think about the infrastructure. And that would avoid 60 gigawatt of peak generation, but also like avoiding 1 billion up to 29 billion per year in grid capex infrastructure that you have to build new grid or to renovate the existing one. So really, this is what's in if you play it rightly. Now, what is in for the customers? Because that was from the system view. We need to talk about people, because at the end of the day, the transition applies to all of us. We are customers before being everything else. So we just came out with a figure that 71 billion per year could be saved actually if households, like now we call them not prosumers but flex consumers, can actually deploy fully the flexibility assets that they have at home or in their building, or industrial consumers as well, EVs, heat pumps, batteries. So real money that can be really reduced and benefit from the system. If they activate their flexibility, they will be remunerated, as Sarah just pointed out. So not only you reduce the bills, but also you get a benefit because you have been compensated if you react properly in the market. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is the reality being perfectly, but actually doesn't exist yet because there are some barriers. And we mentioned them in the beginning. What we captured actually by doing our own exercise is that there are many barriers already existing for demand flexibility to be unlocked. There are 70 provisions being completely not transposed or implemented at European level and national level as we speak. So 70 provisions coming from the European legislation, which is quite dramatic, by the way, but makes it very complex. So meaning that the barriers are demand side flexibility is still too complex. It's still very, let's say, infrastructure is real. Flexibility is a little bit not visible to all. So you have to understand it and to grasp it, what it is really, the potential of it. It's too fragmented and it's under-recognized basically in all the files, or exactly the potential that it can bring to the grid investments particularly. And most importantly, we have been considered completely being a niche. What is core right now, it's infrastructure, and everything else is a bit niche, and that it's nice to have, but not necessary. So what we have seen, and then if we go to the last one, because I don't want to keep you busy with all these barriers, is that if you go only through these major pieces of legislation and you take a look, if you can actually establish the right of consumers to participate in all the markets, but the markets have to be open in the first place. If you don't have markets, there is nothing to bid for or to make a compensation for the citizens. If you empower the renewable energy communities and self-consumption communities, including storage and demand-side flexibility, that will be a massive win. And then, of course, you have energy efficiency to tap the potential of cost-effective and beneficial demand-side flexibility in climate plans. I think you mentioned in the panel one that there are some climate plans happening in the city or in the cities of specific countries, and that will be helpful demand-side flexibility to be taken into account. And lastly, and more importantly, well, flexibility needs to be accounted as a component in the grid investments and the grid capacities and to build this system. So I will end with this right now. It's just a snapshot what's going and where we stand, but happy to take questions thereafter. Thanks, Bojan.
Thanks very much, Sani, especially for staying so well on time. I think we have one question to be answered. We have time for one question to be answered. I see we have a number of additional questions, but we've selected one, which goes to you, Sara. And the question asks, as concerns Enostra as a whole, do you operate with multi-property and multi-usage buildings? And if so, how? Is it, for example, through building administrations or such means? Yeah, if we can have a relatively short response for this.
Yeah, we're starting with one case. We have no experience so far, but we are starting with one case. Very short answer.
Okay, very good. So I think we can go to the next panel now. So thank you again, Sara and Seni, for these very fruitful presentations. Yeah, so moving on to our last but certainly not least panel, which is on energy sharing. So this energy sharing really enables consumers through an energy community or another organizational form to self-consume locally produced renewable energy close to real time. So here to share some inspiring project, an inspiring project for us is Olivier Boveru from Energy Commune, who is a renewable energy analyst at Energy Commune. Olivier graduated as a business engineer and worked for over 2 years in NG Electrolabel, and then he joined Energy Commune in 2023 and brought his technical and economic expertise in photovoltaics, energy storage, energy sharing, and also has competencies in technical design of mapping solar potential in Wallonia, so GIS. Great to have you with us here, Olivier. And with you, we have Lars Breckenfelder, who is a policy advisor at SolarPower Europe. Lars has been policy advisor specifically on rooftop PV and digitalization at SPE, supporting building and prosumer work streams and digitalization work streams, developing position papers, and indeed engaging in advocacy outreach on behalf of SolarPower Europe's members. Great to have you both here. So I start with you, Olivier. Please do take the floor, and I kindly ask you to remain within the 10 minutes allocation that we have. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. So next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to present today the SunSud project, which is an energy sharing project within a social housing building in Saint-Gilles, Brussels. So it was initiated by Energy Commune, CityMind, and Foyer du Sud, which is the social housing company in this municipality of Brussels. They have invested in the solar panels, but it was also made thanks to the support of the region of Brussels, so Bruxelles Environnement, and the municipality of Saint-Gilles. Next slide, please. So before I talk about this project itself, next slide, please. So I'm gonna introduce you to the electricity sharing. So how does it work? On the left side, you have a producer. Sometimes the producer produces more than he consumes simultaneously. So that means that he will inject this surplus on the network. So distribution network, low tension, low voltage. The producer owns a smart meter. which allows to measure all the flows going in and out the household. On the right side, you have the consumer, which consumes part of this injection and part of electricity coming from the grid, in case there is not enough injection to cover his consumption. So at night, it will be fully from the grid, from non-PV electricity. As you can see, it's based on the quarter hour time period. So all the flows are metered per quarter, and it allows to reconnect the physical flows with the economical flows. So simultaneity has importance. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are three configurations. The first one is peer-to-peer, and it's exactly the one I just presented. The second one is within the same building, and it's going to be the one we will study for SunSud project. And the last one are energy communities, so you may have heard of them. It's allowing you to share electricity with a lot of buildings. So it has a lot of potential, but there are also some other constraints, because you have to create a legal form, so a company, let's say, non-profit or cooperative, but that's not the topic today. So next slide, you can press twice, yep. Again, please. Okay, so what's happening? So you have solar panels on the roof. That's the first flow. Then it allows you to consume electricity on the common meter of the building. Generally, it's only lighting, but sometimes it's also lifts or ventilation. But in many cases, it's a very low consumption, just lights, which means that the building would inject a lot on the grid and sell this electricity to the energy supplier for almost nothing. But with electricity sharing, it allows to share this electricity with the people inside the building and make more worth for this production. And in the final flow, the 5, it means that the consumers will still have to consume electricity from the grid at night, for instance. Next slide. Okay, so now that we know what is electricity sharing, let's talk about this project, SunSud. So the solar panels were invested and installed in December 2020, about 40 kilowatt peaks, which makes 35,000 kilowatt hour per year. The ownership, so the owner is the social housing company, and there were 2 producer meters with 4 other common meters, which were consumers. And there are 109 apartments with electric boiler, but as we will see, only 30 of them are taking part into the scheme. Can you go next slide, please? Yeah, so a few key figures. So basically, of the whole production, 90% is self-consumed within the group, either on common meters or by sharing it with the 30 households. It's good to know that there are network costs and taxes that are still due for the shared electricity, but there is a substantial discount on network costs because it's within the same building, so it uses very little the network. The local price for electricity was set as 2 cents by the social housing company, so very low, plus the network costs and taxes. Not all inhabitants did participate, and in total, so only 10% of this production was injected on the network and sold to a very cheap price to the energy supplier. Next slide, please. Thank you. So about the economical interests. So for the collective savings, there were 6,700 euros saved on the common building charges. So that is directly a saving for all of the households in the building. So 60 euro for each. And for the individual savings for the participants in the energy sharing scheme, they reduced their bills by an average 10%, so ranging from 20 to 180 euro per household. So that is only for the participants. Can you go to next slide, please? Okay, so three main advantages for energy sharing. The first one is that you get a cheaper price, even cheaper than social price. So in Belgium, we have a federal social price for people who are into respond to certain criteria. It's at 25 cents currently. So you can see on the chart that it's even lower for the energy sharing. Secondly, it offers price stability. So during the crisis, social tariff also increases slower than the market, but it's disconnected from the market. So it's really a stable price for a certain part of your consumption. And finally, it allows better integration of renewables energy in the mix, because people are having an incentive to adapt their consumption behavior and to consume when the production occurs. So it's called demand side flexibility. Other panelists have talked about it. Next slide, please. So we talked about economical benefits, but it's really important for you to understand that this project is really about social benefits as well. This project was co-constructed by and with the inhabitants. So they were involved in the project from the start, and they were provided also some guidance to the group. Next slide, please. So this guidance was through workshops where they were helped to understand, to decompose the energy bill. Okay, there is the energy, distribution, transport, taxes, and so on. Where do we get some discounts? How does energy sharing work? What are the goals that we want to set as a group? Do we want, yeah, never mind. Building trust between the participants and tie some social bonds. And finally, choose how to function as a group. So which price do we want to define, the repartition key, governance, billing, and so on. So next slide, please. And these social benefits I was talking about, there are three mainly. First, it allowed the participants to build trust and collaboration relationships with their fellow neighbors, but also with the social housing company, because sometimes the relationship with the occupants and the social housing company is not that good. So it reinstored trust, but it also allowed them to become a more active player in the energy transition, because vulnerable citizens are sometimes less included in the energy transition. And finally, it allowed them to better understand the energy world and to get empowered to better reduce their energy consumption and their bills, basically. Next slide, please. So about the replicability, financially viable because it's a win-win situation for both the social housing company and the inhabitants. Note that there are subsidies in Brussels, but it remains viable with no subsidies. We are replicating the model, by the way, in Wallonia. Guidance materials can be reused. Social workers can be trained to conduct workshops in many different buildings, and participants loved it, so they share their positive experience, so it helps to convince other people. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention. That was it for me.
Fascinating stuff, Olivier. Congratulations on this initiative. I think many will be following closely and indeed looking at the final points you made about the replication potential. Yeah, very promising to understand this sound replication potential that there is. Okay, so we can go to our next speaker now. Lars, would you like to take the floor? And yeah, please go ahead. Just for colleagues to note, for participants to note, we will probably be running around 5 minutes extra, 5 to 10 minutes extra. So we hope you can stay with us until around 4:40 p.m. This was scheduled to finish at 5:30, but I think that it's the interesting insights. It makes very much worthwhile staying tuned in with us these additional minutes. So please, Lars, do take the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Puyan. And thank you everybody for having me, for the invitation. here for SolarPower Europe to have the possibility to give a European perspective. And yeah, also very interesting presentation, Olivier. Thank you for introducing us to energy sharing. So why is energy sharing so beneficial? We really want to understand how rooftop PV owners can not only use their own generated electricity, but also use all the potential, for example, during the midday, to share the energy and reduce the electricity bills of everyone involved. And also reducing the grid constraints, and I will come to more benefits about this later. And also, I would like to present some policy recommendations that we have for the implementation of the framework. So let me start with how the rooftop PV owners can really get themselves future-proof. So on the next slide, you see a nice graph where I show how the rooftop PV, or the overall, it's actually overall PV market, increased. So very substantially in the years from 2020 to 2023, we had a year-on-year growth of 50%. Unfortunately, that growth reduced substantially, but yeah, we expect a constant growth for the coming years. We also need to point out here that the residential market had a decline from 17 gigawatts down to 11 gigawatts in the last 2 years, which is actually a reduction in the overall market share, down from 33% to 16%. But on the other hand, the commercial and industrial PV market stays stable, and we also can say that we are on the right track to reach the REPower EU target, which means that we have another 797 gigawatts to be installed by 2030. On the next slide, we perfectly see the current state on the left-hand side. Here, especially green countries already have a very advanced technique or advanced mechanism for injection support schemes. Even not like, because they are phasing out slowly. So the green countries here have their market price actually on an hourly basis, which of course is great for flexibility and reducing grid constraints. But on the other hand, rooftop PV owners or renewable energy producers get less of a payment, especially during the sunny hours during the day. So I want to shift your focus to the right-hand side, where the next logical step really is to increase the residential battery potential that we have. And in most countries, this actually grew over the last years, except from Germany and Italy, due to a reduced PV purchase. In Germany, for example, but in Italy, the support scheme drastically stopped all of a sudden. And because those two markets are very big, we see the blue bar in the graph from the residential PV capacity actually reduced in 2024. But yeah, overall, countries are expanding their capacity. Also, the utility scale photovoltaics are growing exponentially. That's substantial, and commercial and industrial PV is slowly increasing as well. Okay, but we can still not use all our energy in a most efficient way, even though that we have storage. So that's why we want to have energy sharing. And in my next slides, I show how we very nicely already have the self-consumption concept, which you can compare with growing your own vegetables in your garden. And we also have the energy communities that you can compare with having a non-profit organization where active participants make sure the vegetables are grown and harvested. And that is also what Olivier presented. We have active participants here who are very involved in consuming renewable energy and being in the project from right at the beginning, bringing people together and really enhancing the idea of sharing renewable energy locally. But we now have in the middle, on the next slide, it shows the energy sharing, which would actually be very free to join and very free also to participate or not. And if you decide not to participate, you still profit, just like going to the store and buying your food. You also don't necessarily need to generate your energy. You can participate within a specific radius of the generation facility, and the whole rules can be made up internally and also by a free entity, like so the consumers don't need to manage anything here. I want to show on the next slide how many benefits there are. Like the consumers, as I mentioned already, they have a reduced bill electricity for electricity. The renewable deployment will increase bigly, right? Like because we can now use the whole potential of any rooftop and build out photovoltaic over the full space. Not worrying about it being limited or cut off the grid because of too high consumption. We will always meet supply and demand over the energy within the energy sharing group. And then also the grid will definitely profit from it highly, as the electricity doesn't need to be fed into the public grid. We can really share the energy now with neighbors, and this overall really incentivizes using the electricity in the time it is generated. On the right-hand side, you see those funny duck curves. And the first duck has quite a high head at the evening hours. That's what it shows here, the energy imported during the evening hours being very high when you just have your solar PV on the roof. If you in the second graph combine it with a battery, you already have a reduced peak in the evening because you can use your stored energy. But the best scenario is on the very right-hand side with the green duck, where you not only have a generation locally and a storage locally, but also the possibility to share locally your energy and trade it within the community without feeding it into the grid. Perfect. And the next slide really shows how advanced the European member states already are, especially France, Portugal, and Spain. Here we really have enabling frameworks that are working already since 2017 in France or since 2019 in Portugal. And for the yellow countries, we see schemes that, we would still advocate for improvement. And unfortunately, the purple countries in this graph, they still don't have sufficient or even no frameworks for energy sharing so far. And please keep in mind, that was a big achievement as well last year in the electricity market design in Article 15A. It was really defined to have the right to share energy, which is quite a big phrase, quite a big understanding of this common good. Perfect. And as my last part of the presentation, I would like to emphasize on 3 policy recommendations. Firstly, we have the consumer rights. We really want to make sure consumers know very well about the contracts. Everything needs to be transparent. They need to understand their rights within the energy sharing community. On the next slide, you really see my points as well. And exactly, thank you. And this is really important. So the consumer really understands what's happening, and they have the possibility to look into the contracts if they want to participate more actively, which, as I explained, they don't necessarily have to. They can just sign up to an electricity sharing group and profit from the lower bills that they have. Conditionally, of course, of having a smart meter and all the digital requirements in place. And then, of course, also the big advantage here is the right to pass all the management activities and financing to a third organizer, which can be a commercial organization. And the second aspect here are the sharing coefficients. Let me quickly let you introduce you to energy coefficients. On the next slide, you see those coefficients can allow, or they are the defining factors, how much electricity is shared with whom within the energy community, energy sharing community. Important to differentiate between those, because we have a very fixed one, where a certain percentage is allocated to this particular household. And if this is not consumed, this share will be fed or lost into the grid. So we really advocate for the other three types. Is it proportionate to consumption, or overall dynamic, or even hierarchical? These coefficients really allow much better for flexibility and meeting supply and demand, and thereby reducing the grid constraints and really taking the most out of energy sharing. These coefficients should be really flexible within each energy community. So this is also the big benefit of the energy community energy sharing framework, where like the whole community can decide on their own coefficients and rules. And my last slide also shows how we can design the network tariffs. Like for the national regulatory authorities, of course, we ask them really to be transparent about the contracts, and we also want them to give big benefits to energy sharing communities. Whenever on your voltage level the grid is not used, you should not pay for it in your grid tariff, of course. And then also, if you are operating grid friendly with your energy sharing group, this should be also very beneficial to your final network tariffs. This really allows for load shifting to local generation, and it's really important, that all the citizens understand. So the rules should be kept simple and not even more complex electricity contracts that we already have. On the right-hand side, for your own reading, you see also best practices that we know of in Spain, in Austria also, and in Portugal, where the grid tariffs were fairly decided on. And last but not least, on the last slide, please feel free to read further into the details. We did quite robust analysis here of the regulatory framework for energy sharing. On the next slide, you see at least a cover from our reports. And then I would like to really thank you for having me on this webinar. And one slide further, you also find contact information if you have further questions or ideas of collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Lars, and indeed quite some more material for us to dig our teeth into after this webinar. Thanks for sharing those. I'm sure plenty of us will look forward to reading them. Okay, so we have time for one question before we start to wrap up, and this will be for you, Olivier. And the question is, how is the surplus energy produced, shared among the participating apartments? Is it first come, first served, or is the electricity shared evenly among the participants?
Yeah, so it follows a repartition key. The repartition key, there are several ones, pro rata, based on how much consumption everyone is consuming during this quarter, or there are more even repartition keys, based on we give the same amount to everyone, and then if some have still capacity, they can get the surplus from those who had little consumption at that moment. So there are different types, but there is no first in, first out, or last in, first out, because everything happens at the same time. It's a quarter, we make an average, and then the repartition key guides the repartition. I don't know if that's clear enough, but don't hesitate to contact me if you have more questions.
Great, thanks for responding. Indeed, your openness. Well,
maybe if I may interrupt.
Yes.
I think this is a very valid question, especially when you have multiple households combined with big organizations and big power plants. And then those coefficients that I presented really come into place and into the game and need to be carefully adjusted so everybody feels profiting still from this sharing opportunity. And that way, actually, certain percentages reserved for household consumption of your locally generated electricity.
Yeah, indeed.
Thanks.
There's always a means to align all the interests of the different profiles.
Very good. Thanks also, Lars, for complimenting there. And thanks to you, Olivier, Lars, and all of the rest of the speakers today who participated. I think we've had some really broad, diverse, but indeed detailed contributions from you all on these very important topics. Going back a little bit, let's say, to the overarching objectives of today's webinar, we really wanted to understand better barriers and drivers. And I think we had a lot of insights in terms of understanding the roles that local authorities can play as enablers and multipliers. We looked in numerous presentations a role that, let's say, European legislation and funding can both play as an enabler or perhaps a barrier in certain contexts. We looked at data limitations and the issue of market design. And we also looked at certain ideas across the board at how to really effectively plug in citizens and consumers into different processes, whether those be procedural or financial. And we also looked at the importance of trust in these processes. In terms of replicability and transferability, I think that there was some important reflections also given to the extent to which and under the conditions of which certain initiatives presented today can be transferred. So again, in the spirit of Olivier's invitation for contacting some of the speakers and initiatives, we would very much encourage doing so. I see some of the PowerPoints have already shared the email addresses, and indeed we will disseminate these again when we circulate the PowerPoints. But I think the bottom line is that yes, there is a good degree of transfer and replication potential of not only the initiatives that we have seen today, but indeed those which we will be developing in the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub. This is why we will be developing a number of 55 best practices, and the objective is fundamentally to serve as a benchmark and then to inspire action from you, the audience, and beyond. And I think as a very final reflection is that we understand how this issue of affordability is really central to much of the European Commission or the European Union generally actions on this domain, and what I think is also very evident, whether directly or indirectly from many of the presentations of today, is that many initiatives, many policies, many pieces of legislation out there are contributing towards addressing this issue of affordability, but indeed is something which has to be experimented further and further action to be driven in that direction. So many more discussions to be had on the topics related to the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, not only this year, but also in the years to come. After summer, we will be holding 3 more webinars. They will fall both under the umbrella of this chattings on energy, citizen energy, but also as part of the umbrella of some breakfast webinars that we will be doing also under the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, where we will showcase many more best practices to hope to motivate, engage, and inspire you all. How will you know when and where these will be taking place? Well, again, scan the barcodes which are on the screen now. Please, you will find the information, you will receive information on these next steps and actions in the newsletters and the communications which will come. So on behalf of all of the team, I'd like to thank you all again for joining us. A special thanks to colleagues Zoe Ledwith from ResCoop, who has been spearheading the organization of this, and indeed colleagues and Ricardo, who have been helping with the logistics and setting all of this up. We couldn't have been here without them today. So wishing you all a very pleasant afternoon. I know it's hot in almost all corners of Europe right now, so hope you all manage to get outside and enjoy the last, plenty of hours of sunshine still, which is remaining, and we look forward to seeing you online very soon. Thank you again, and good afternoon to you all. Bye bye.